Okay, let's unpack this. Picture the absolute peak of physical potential. The world's fittest athletes competing at the CrossFit Games. You see them perform these feats that seem just impossible, and you think, wow, they must just be born with it. But what if that's not the whole story? What if the difference between incredible talent and truly world-beating greatness isn't genetic luck, but something built day by day, something you can actually develop?
That's the really compelling idea, right? It's at the core of our deep dive today. We've been exploring the source that really digs into the philosophy of Ben Bergeron. He's coached athletes like Katrin DeVries' daughter and Matt Frazier, and not just to the games, but helped guide them to multiple world championships.
Yeah, and we're not just talking about qualifying for the games, which is already, insanely difficult. It's the tiniest fraction of a percent. This is about that level where everyone is already immensely talented. The source is really clear. At this elite level, talent is, yeah, it's necessary, but it's not the differentiator. It's just the price of admission, basically.
Right. The real edge comes from something else.
And that something else is.
Character. That's the foundation of this whole coaching philosophy.
So the idea isn't talent first. It's more like character first.
Exactly. The source argues pretty strongly that mental toughness, these core character traits, they're actually more important than innate talent at the very highest levels. They're the catalyst, the thing that turns raw potential into sustained success.
And it's saying this isn't some mystical quality you're born with. Mental toughness is conditioned, practiced.
Absolutely. It's something that can take an athlete who's already incredibly fit, maybe kind of sitting in the middle of the pack at the games, and lift them onto the podium. It's a skill set you build.
What's really striking, though, is how the author insists this isn't just for elite athletes. These principles, this whole blueprint for building a champion mindset, it applies to anyone, right? Anyone wanting to be excellent in their own life, whether that's, business or a creative thing, leadership, even just being a better parent or partner. It's about being the best version of you.
Which, leads us right into the first key action that builds this kind of character: commitment. An almost unbelievable level of commitment.
The kind of commitment described here for just making it to the games, it's intense. 5-10 hours a day, year-round training. A life basically defined by discipline, sacrifice, hardship, even suffering, the source says.
It really forces a distinction, even among people who are already hard workers. Many athletes reach a high level and maybe feel like they've done enough, they get comfortable. But the champions, they operate at the absolute peak of their capacity, relentlessly pushing past that comfort zone.
There's that powerful story in the source about Cole Sager at the 2016 regionals. He was outside the qualifying spots, ninth place going into the final event. And he just delivers this Herculean performance, wins the event, and claws his way into fifth place, gets his spot at the games. Amazing.
Yeah, a moment most people would see as the culmination of everything. But right after celebrating that huge win, his coach tells him the work is just beginning. He basically had to decide if he was truly ready to go pro, to commit to an even higher standard, operating at his absolute peak, a level of effort way beyond even that huge regional push.
Wow, that's the depth of commitment then. It means treating every single minute as like a space to be perfected, dedicating yourself to the mundane details, the prep work, focusing on the act of dedication itself and who you're becoming through that, not just obsessing over the outcome.
And that level of commitment, well, it requires something else when things inevitably get hard: grit.
Grit. Okay, that feels like a word we hear a lot. How does the source define it specifically here?
It's defined as pushing harder precisely when things get hard. It's getting back up, learning, coming back stronger after you fail. And it's consistently, relentlessly just pounding away, even when you don't see results right away. Relentlessness, consistency, heart, passion. That's how they frame it.
And Matt Frazier is kind of held up as the ultimate example of this. What's fascinating is that he embodies grit, not just by pushing through discomfort, but by actively seeking out the things he's bad at, determined to, quote, eviscerate those weaknesses.
That's where the surprising insight really comes in, I think. Most of us, we avoid what we're bad at, right? But Matt, he actively hunted it down. Think about this. After struggling with rowing in a 2013 competition, he buys a rower and does high-intensity intervals every single day for a whole year, just to fix that one weakness. Or after getting demolished by that 580-pound pig event at the 2015 games, flipping that huge, heavy thing end over end, he bought one and flipped it for hours every Sunday night for 6 months straight. And apparently he applied that same obsessive intensity to studying in school, rereading chapters until he could recite everything.
That level of focus on weaknesses. Wow. It's so counterintuitive, deliberately seeking out struggle like that.
It absolutely is, and it really challenges our typical view of talent, doesn't it? The source argues that people often aspire to be talented, to be the natural. But talent without grit, it's just potential. Wasted potential, often. Talent plus grit, that's what becomes unstoppable. And relying on God-given talent can even become a kind of excuse, right? An out for why you don't have to put in that really punishing, gritty work.
Which connects perfectly to the next principle, and this one feels really counterintuitive too. Embrace adversity.
Yeah, the idea here is that adversity isn't something you should try to avoid. It's the only thing that truly makes us better. That old cliche, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's presented here not just as a saying, but as like a fundamental truth for building resilience and capacity.
This is where successful people show adversarial growth. They actually use setbacks as fuel. Staying comfortable just prevents growth altogether.
Look at Katrine Devia's Daughter's story from 2014. She had this really emotional moment on the competition floor after failing a crucial rope climb. That really tough vertical climb using just arms and legs. She missed qualifying for the games because of it. Devastating, publicly and personally. Yeah, her coach texted her something like, this could be the best thing that ever happened to her.
And apparently it was. That crushing failure forced her to confront and rebuild not just her physical weakness on that movement, but her whole mental approach to pressure.
Another example they give is Brent Fikowski. He apparently dominated his regional competition one year because he'd torn his labrum, a shoulder injury. The injury stopped him from doing impact training, so it forced him to focus intensely on building upper body strength, which had actually been a weakness. He turned a major physical setback into this opportunity to become a more complete athlete.
It really makes you think about famous figures outside sports too, doesn't it? Like Steve Jobs getting fired from Apple before doing his most innovative work. Walt Disney being told he lacked imagination before building his empire. J.K. Rowling facing tons of rejections. These huge professional adversities often come right before their greatest successes. The setback wasn't just a detour, it was maybe key to their transformation.
Adversity isn't optional in life, right? It's guaranteed. It's your response that matters. The source really highlights that we often fear the very struggles that actually hold the key to the results we crave.
It comes down to facing those fears, even the small ones, with a sort of just start mindset. Like Katrine jumping back into ocean swims after a really difficult experience. It completely reset her internal standard for what she could handle under pressure.
Building right on that, the next principle is confidence. And this definition might surprise you a bit.
Because it's not just believing you'll win, is that right?
Not at all. Confidence, in this specific framework, isn't about believing you can control the outcome or that victory is guaranteed. It's about knowing deep down that you can control your response to whatever happens.
This is framed using that simple equation. E plus R equals O. Event plus response equals outcome. You don't control the event, and you don't directly control that outcome.
Yeah.
But you always, always control your response.
Exactly. And confidence is built by mastering that R. Think about Katrine before the 2015 rope climb event at the Games. She was wearing the leader jersey, but she was facing the exact movement that cost her everything the year before. She was panicking inside.
So how did her coach help her find that confidence in her response then? What did he do?
He reframed her goal completely. The goal wasn't to win the event. It wasn't even to complete all the climbs perfectly. The goal was simply to do one rope climb, rest, then do one more. He narrowed her focus down to the controllable action, not the potential outcome or what others were doing. Her win became delivering her absolute best effort in that moment, competing only against her past self and her own internal struggle, not against the other athletes or the leaderboard.
That really redefines winning, doesn't it? It's about delivering your maximum potential, regardless of where that puts you compared to others.
Precisely. Confidence comes from upholding those champion characteristics: focus, effort, perseverance, positivity, especially when the pressure is highest. Athletes who really get this see their primary competition as themselves. Katrine could feel satisfied with her performance in an event like the squat clean pyramid, even if her raw strength wasn't maybe top tier relative to the field, because she knew she had maximized her potential in that specific challenge in that moment.
So confidence develops from defining success in terms you can actually control.
Right.
Your effort, your preparation, your focus in the moment. Katrine's definition of success became something like giving full effort knowing that was the best I was capable of. Tied to her daily prep, not scores or winning. That reframing
Yeah.
It seems like it would take immense pressure off.
It absolutely does. Which brings us really nicely to another critical principle, the process.
This one gets summed up beautifully by that Bob Knight quote. Do what have to be done as well as it can be done. Then do it that way all the time.
It's all about unwavering focus on the steps required for success, demanding excellence at every single stage, rather than getting distracted or, discouraged by the distant outcome. It's prioritizing preparation above everything else.
The example in the source is pretty striking. When Katrin started working with his coach, even though she was already a two-time Games athlete, they spent a month and a half just perfecting her basic air squat. No weight, just the fundamental movement, drilling it over and over until it was perfect.
Or the way they rebuilt her muscle up, that complex gymnastic skill on the rings. They stopped doing them entirely for 90 days. Then they practiced only the kip swing, then added the pull. For months, she apparently did just one perfect muscle up per day. One. It was 6 months before she even put them back into a workout, and then only one perfect rep at a time. That is commitment to process.
Wow. That just highlights the surprising insight here, doesn't it? Excellence isn't achieved through some magical leap. It's the gradual result of mastering the mundane steps, demanding perfection even in the absolute basics, breaking down huge goals into tiny, manageable, repeatable pieces.
And for anyone listening, whether you're trying to learn a new skill for work, build a habit, tackle a big personal project, this is so key. Goals aren't achieved by wishing. They're the results of consistent effort applied to the right steps, the right process. Focus on perfecting that process day in and day out, and the results, well, they tend to take care of themselves, almost become inevitable.
Okay, let's talk about control. Specifically, knowing what you can influence and, maybe more importantly, letting go of the rest.
Yeah, the source is very, very specific here. Elite athletes, they argue, can truly control only 5 things: their training, their nutrition, their sleep, their recovery, and their mindset. Everything else, it's outside your circle of influence. You should basically ignore it.
There was that exercise they did with Katrin and Cole before the games where they listed 101 things that could go wrong. Everything from bad weather and judging errors to equipment failure, what competitors might do, all that stuff. Then they just filtered the list. Controllable versus uncontrollable. The uncontrollable items, literally discarded, thrown away. The controllable ones got a plan.
It's like that analogy of daily energy being like matchsticks. You only have so many each day. Don't burn your precious energy worrying about the weather, the judges' calls, what your competitors are doing, or even the specifics of a workout you can't change. Channel that energy only into the 5 things you can actually control.
A great example they used was Matt Frazier during the separator event at the Games. It's a really tough workout with lots of different movements. Apparently, a judge was miscounting his handstand push-ups. You can imagine the frustration, right? Focusing on that external unfair thing.
But his training, his mindset training, allowed him to quickly pivot. He refocused his energy entirely on his own performance, on controlling his response to the situation. That ability to just filter out the noise and stay focused on his own effort is what allowed him to eventually overcome that deficit and actually win the heat.
That shift is so crucial. It's a powerful reminder that even when things feel unfair or totally outside your control, your response, that is within your power.
Which leads us directly into principle number 9, turn the page.
Right. Mistakes are guaranteed when you're pushing your limits. That's part of the process. What's not acceptable, according to the source, is a lack of effort. So when you do mess up, how do you handle it?
You have to be able to turn the page immediately. In a multi-event competition like the Games, there's just no time to dwell on a bad performance in one event. It can absolutely destroy your chances in the next one. The post-event debrief protocol they describe is really strict, 5-10 minutes, max. Quick celebration for a good event, a very short window to maybe grieve a bad one, but then the focus shifts instantly to recovery and prep for the next challenge. Move on.
Yeah, dwelling in that negativity after a mistake just poisons your confidence for what's next. Katrin was apparently visibly upset after a D-ball event, carrying that heavy ball where a specific error cost her points. And it wasn't just the points, it was that she knew it wasn't her absolute best effort. But the coach immediately redirected her focus. Okay, done. Now next day's events. Prep starts now.
This is where practices like mindfulness become really critical, not just some fuzzy concept. The source describes them practicing breathing exercises daily. And it's not just for relaxation. It's literally training your mind to stay present and non-judgmental when things go wrong out there in the real world under pressure. There's this anecdote about Katrin kind of mentally checking out during a tough training session on muscle-ups, and the coach used it as a live lesson. Okay, you missed that rep, you had a bad moment, now turn the page. Seize the next available moments. Don't waste them dwelling on the last one.
Because living in the past leads to depression, right?
Mm-hmm.
And fearing the future leads to anxiety. The present moment, that's the only place where you actually have control and the ability to take action.
Moving on then, principle number 10, humility.
The quote cited here is just perfect. Winning takes talent. To repeat it takes character. And humility is presented as a huge part of that champion character.
It takes a really profound level of humility to honestly acknowledge your limitations, your weaknesses, especially when you are literally one of the fittest on earth and everyone just expects you to be good at everything. And then crucially, to consistently work on those weaknesses, even when it's uncomfortable or feels less impressive than practicing your strengths.
Like Matt Frazier, who after finishing second twice, knew he had to improve his running. It was a clear weakness. So he humbled himself enough to train sprinting with a high school drag team 2 nights a week for 6 months, getting, quote, smoked by teenagers.
But he didn't care about the optics. He just wanted to get better, and that required humility. Or Katrine, who apparently had a significant weakness with odd object work, moving logs, flipping tires, that kind of stuff, early in her training. Her gymnastics strengths were basically useless there. Seeing how much this limited her overall, they dedicated time to it almost every single day, including specific Friday sessions just for odd objects, despite it being uncomfortable and really challenging for her.
That willingness to be bad at something, to be a beginner again, even when you're at the absolute top level, that's key. This is where the source talks about double loop learners. People who can look critically at failures, figure out the underlying problems or flawed assumptions, own them, and find fundamental solutions, not just making superficial fixes.
Exactly. And for a coach at this level, constantly looking for weaknesses is actually part of the job. The book warns that the moment a coach feels their athlete can't be beat, they've actually failed. Because complacency. That's the ultimate enemy of continued growth.
Okay, next up, competitive excellence.
This is described really simply as the gradual result of always wanting to do better.
So it's not some switch you just flip on game day. It's an unwavering commitment to that process, to all these principles every single day. It has to become a habit.
Matt Frazier again offers a perfect illustration in the final event with the 2016 Games, the rope chipper. He was mathematically certain to win the overall competition at that point. The title was totally locked up. Yet he was absolutely furious with the judge over a minor miscount on his double unders.
Why? Why be upset about a tiny detail like that when the overall win was already secured?
Because he wasn't focused on the final score or the championship trophy in that moment. He was focused on maximizing that minute, on winning that specific event heat. It wasn't about the overall win right then. It was about doing his job perfectly now. It's like those stories you hear about Alabama football or the New England Patriots during that Super Bowl comeback. Even when they're way up or way down, they're focused only on doing their job on the next play with maximum effort, not the scoreboard, not the final outcome.
You train how you compete. That really comes through. To perform at the highest level under pressure, you have to practice executing with that exact same intensity and focus on detail every single day. It just becomes who you are.
Which brings us right to the final principle discussed, clutch.
Clutch. This is often seen as some kind of magical, almost innate ability to perform under pressure, right? Like hitting the game-winning shot.
But the source presents it quite differently. Clutch isn't luck. It's not magic. It's simply the ability to do what you can normally do, but under immense pressure. It's the direct result of prepared skill meeting that crucial moment. Preparation is the key.
The most compelling example they use is Katrine in the final event of the 2016 Games, an event called Redemption, and it included the pegboard, that incredibly challenging vertical board with holes, requiring precise arm movements, pure strength. This was her absolute biggest weakness. She'd apparently never completed more than one ascent in training, ever. And the stakes were sky high. Her overall lead was slim. The championship was literally on the line.
So what was her strategy? What was her mindset going into that moment?
It was pure focus on the controllable process. Ignore the other competitors completely. Stay in her own bubble. Focus only on you versus the pegboard. Be smart, be efficient with her energy. It wasn't about suddenly becoming superhuman physically. It was about delivering her absolute best possible performance in that exact moment, under that crushing pressure, exactly the way she had trained the process. One step, one move at a time.
And she did it. She completed 2 ascents, doubling her previous best in training, and secured her championship win. It wasn't a miracle. It was preparation meeting the moment. As the source really emphasizes, you cannot summon what you do not have in that high-pressure situation. Clutch performance is built day by day, not born.
So Bringing all these principles together then,
Hmm.
the core message that's really reinforced in the epilogue is pretty clear. Those gold medals, those championships,
Yeah.
they were the culmination of years of deliberate personal development, mastering these character traits and trusting this process.
Yeah, it's not about finding some secret, groundbreaking shortcut nobody else knows. The real challenge for these athletes, and frankly for you listening, is translating the vision of excellence into simple, often mundane, everyday actions, as the source puts it. Action, action, action. That's the key.
Success isn't some magical gift bestowed upon a lucky few. It's a decision you make, day after day, to consistently apply these ideas, to live these principles.
And the true pursuit of being a champion, maybe the surprising part, isn't just about the destination, the gold medal or the big promotion. It's about the golden road itself. Living and breathing these behaviors, these habits daily. It's striving to do your best at whatever you're doing, whether that's, hitting a complex lift in the gym, crushing a presentation at work, or simply loading the dishwasher with focus and intention. It's the manner in which you strive to reach your potential that ultimately defines you. That's the real win.
So we've taken a pretty deep dive today into how world-class champions are forged, not just found, by deliberately focusing on character, on mindset, and on the process, rather than solely relying on physical talent.
Yeah, and the truly surprising insight, I think, woven through all these principles is that the difference between being good and being truly elite. It often comes down to mastering the seemingly mundane steps, actively seeking out and embracing struggle, rigorously controlling only what you can influence, and just consistently embodying these principles, these behaviors every single day, no days off from the mindset.
And that leaves us with a pretty powerful thought, directly from the source for you to consider. Who you are on the competition floor or in that big meeting or during that tough parenting moment is a reflection of who you are in practice. No more, no less. So how are you practicing for the moments that matter most in your own life?